Hi, my name is Don Boucher. In this video, we're going to cover how to make high-quality observations in iNaturalist. If you're new to iNaturalist, please watch our introduction video first. The iNaturalist community is full of people who love exploring and learning about nature. Since I've started using the app, I've noticed I'm more likely to stop and take photos when I'm out. iNaturalist is a way to share what you've seen with other naturalists. Others will help you identify your observations, and they could be added to a dataset for scientific research. You should know that some observations get identified quickly, others take a long time, while some don't get much engagement at all. This video will help you make observations that are easier and faster for the naturalist community to identify accurately, more useful to the community, and more valuable to science. iNaturalist is a nonprofit, and I'm doing this as a volunteer for their ambassador program. The quality of your observations matter because one of iNaturalist's goals is to make your observation useful to science. Other naturalists help identify what you find. When multiple people agree on an ID, your observation can become research grade. Clear, useful evidence is the key. If you take a blurry photo and you can retake it, please do. Get comfortable with your camera so focusing is quick and easy. More photos are better than one. Try different angles. Add close-ups of important features, and when you can, include a wider shot of the organism in its environment. Fast-moving creatures are tough, so just do your best. And don't forget to turn on location services so your observation includes accurate coordinates. You don't have to upload your photos in the field. You can take photos first using your phone or another camera. Upload later from the app or upload from a computer using the iNaturalist website. Photos without time or location data can still be uploaded, but you'll have to manually enter that information, which can be time-consuming if you have a lot of photos. iNaturalist is primarily intended for wild organisms, and observations are marked wild by default. The following are considered not wild or captive in iNaturalist: garden ornamentals and planted street trees, house plants, zoo animals, pets, or farm animals. However, introduced naturalized or invasive species living on their own count as wild. Escaped pets and feral domestic animals living independently also count as wild. If you're unsure, you can still upload. These observations should eventually be marked as not wild. The distinction between wild organisms and those that are captive or cultivated helps keep range maps accurate and adds to our knowledge of an organism's wild distribution. There are other apps and web resources that are great for identifying cultivated plants. When you upload a photo, iNaturalist gives you automatic ID suggestions through a process called computer vision. That's helpful, but it's not always accurate. If you know what it is, go ahead and choose the ID suggestion. If you're not sure, it's better to tap the ID field and scroll through the category icons and select something like plant, bird, or insect. A correct broad ID is more helpful than a wrong species name, and it makes it easier for identifiers to find your observation and identify it correctly. Broad and correct is always better than specific and wrong. Wrong IDs can accidentally become research grade, so choosing a broader ID category helps keep the data more accurate. Here are some general guidelines for some broad categories of organisms that will help your observations become research grade. For trees and shrubs, get photos of as many as possible of the following features: the leaves or needles, both tops and undersides, buds, flowers, fruits, or cones, twig pattern, like whether it's opposite or alternate, the bark, seeds, the whole tree or shrub. For weeds and wildflowers, get a close-up of the flower, both top and side view, flower clusters, both sides of the leaves, and the whole plant. For mushrooms, take a photo of the top of the cap and the underside, the stem and base of the stem. If they grow in clusters, show that. Take a photo of what it's growing on. For butterflies, get a photo of the top of the wings and the underside of the wings. With moths, capture the top of the wings and a close-up photo. Birds and other wildlife are often flighty and distant. Getting close photos is a challenge, but crucial. For distant subjects, crop your photo. Do the best you can to get more than one photo. iNaturalist doesn't accept video, but single frames can be submitted as photos. Photos of animal tracks and droppings, or scat, can also be used as observations because they're evidence of an animal's presence. Take photos of as many tracks as you can find. Be sure they're from the same animal. Some mammals' scat is variable enough that it alone cannot be identified to the species unless there are other corroborating photos, like tracks. The key for both tracks and scat is to always include something of known size for scale, such as a small ruler, a coin, or a pen. If you find feathers, take photos of both the upper sides and undersides, and take measurements. And a few general tips when submitting photos. For any species, it can be helpful to include the photo of an organism in its habitat. Some photos have good views of multiple species. This is often the case with mixed flocks of waterfowl or animal tracks. You could submit the same photo as separate observations. For each species, add a comment that includes a name or description of the species you are submitting it for. iNaturalist accepts sound files, but doesn't give automatic ID suggestions. If you don't know the species, choose a broad category, like birds. To improve sound observations, get as close as possible to the organism. Move away from background noise if possible. Trim recordings to the relevant parts when you can. Note timestamps for your subject of interest if multiple species are vocalizing. Making careful observations does more than improve your IDs. It helps other naturalists, it helps researchers, it helps conservation efforts, and many of the methods we talked about here are good practice for you as a naturalist. You'll learn more, you'll notice details more readily, and you'll make new discoveries.